Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with the 7th episode of the Cultist Simulator Priest DLC, playing as Harold Davidson. So, in the previous episode, we had a bit of trouble. So, one of the things that happens, for those of you who are maybe not familiar with the mechanic, when you start with a priest, you have an appointment to a quiet parish. The implication is that you have been placed in sort of a remote location to get out of the way. You've done something bad. And the description of it is, as long as I do not draw the attention of the bishop through dereliction or scandal, I can draw a living here. So essentially, we had a notoriety, the way that this works, this is one of the ways that you generate funds, and you can use reason to get a sort of take 60 seconds to generate funds, or you can spend a passion, you can improvise your sermon, and you get, that'll take 50 seconds to generate a funds. So it feels weird to say a funds, but it is a single card. So now every once in a while, there's other inputs that you can put in. You can actually put health inside, which we've not done yet. But every once in a while, you will generate exaltation. So the fervor of your congregation who sort of has seen this, what lies just beneath the skin of the world, has been given these hints. It's why everything, all of the infrastructure is sort of present when you arrive. We did not choose the Church of the Bright Edge. It was sort of bequeathed to us from the previous, somebody who had been here previously. So one of the things that you can do to generate the fervor is to give hints as to this, as to these secrets. You can use lore. The higher the level of the lore, the more likely it's going to provoke a reaction. And then also, if you match the lore to the ability that you're using, reason or passion, that will also increase the chance. But as is true for a lot of things in Cultist Simulator, there are few guarantees. It is always possible to generate sort of this exaltation as a result of just simply doing your job. And so I was trying to avoid generating mystique, and I thought, well, it's a remote chance that we're going to get an exaltation, and exaltation doesn't always generate a notoriety, so we're probably safe enough. It would be nice to sort of maintain the level of funds that I have, so let's go back to an appointment to a quiet parish. And even though we phoned in the sermon, or I guess telegrammed in the sermon, the result was the exaltation, and it produced a notoriety, which we're now kind of hiding away in hopes of drowning out with some extra mystique, which we'll get through the acquaintances and such. So essentially, we're kind of back to the place we were a little while ago, save for the fact that we have many more stats. And so while I'm continuing this evasion of the Suppression Bureau, one of the things that I'm going to be doing in the background is quietly improving my physical abilities, at least as far as I can. And then while we do this, we'll also be getting some more people to bring into the Church of the Bright Edge. We'll have another number of different things that we can do. So again, I say we've kind of come back to where we were before. That's not strictly true. Simply because we are making progress, at least as far as our abilities are concerned. It's just we're not necessarily moving down the path towards fulfilling an ambition, which, as I mentioned at the end of the previous episode, the ambition is not actually present on the table, and we'll discuss that at a later point. But for now, we're just going to let time run by. We are going to be going out for fresh air and exercise in order to try and improve my overall vitality, and we'll see what we can do about trying to generate some mystique. The best way to generate mystique is to use a lot of passion in my paintings. We'll see whether or not it pays off, though. Something special, it may provoke a reaction. So I think this timing's not going to work too well. Well, no, it turned out. My recent work is considered notable. I've exhibited the latest paintings publicly. Surely someone will buy something. So what do we have mystique-wise? Feels kind of like we just got the mystique we had already. It's a little worse than a die roll, but we did actually do okay for cash. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to use this notoriety again. Well, actually, you know what? Let's roll the dice once on this. Okay, cool. So we found Porter. We've got another Mystique to work with. So now I'm actually going to wait. I'm going to send Pope Clifton out again. So what this is going to be about... actually, you know what? I should be able to get away with... We've got a Season of Ardors coming up. Okay, so we're going to do a painting with all passion. I will use my contentment as the inspiration. We'll speak publicly of esoteric matters again. This is just going to be so that we can generate the mystique through bringing people in. We know that this passion will become available in time for the recruitment if we need it. So what I'm doing here, there is a small danger in the fact that I'm keeping the mystique on the table, but this is allowing like a full minute to go by and let the notoriety decay. So we won't spend anything on the paints because this is really more about enhancing my reputation. There is the risk of generating fascination doing this, but I think we're in a spot where we can handle that. So I'm going to go back, fresh air and exercise, long walks kill cobwebs. Exercise or something rarer has invigorated me. Use this with another vitality to improve your abilities. All that I am is here. This is something special. It may provoke a reaction. I'll probably paint my vitality next time just so we can keep it around. And the artist reward, my recent work has drawn some attention. Something should sell. Alright, so we've got contentment. I don't think that generated overexposure. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure what that... I mean, I'm sure I can check in the sort of the back end to see exactly this interaction, but just so long as I'm not generating overexposure from my... Okay, so there is this, again, the question would be, do I want to roll the dice again and not, you know, not... I'm just trying to think. Yeah, let's give it a shot. Okay, dodged it. So what I think I'm going to do this time around is we're going to let it run by. I don't have any restlessness for painting. Here's what I'm going to do. This is going to seem a little counterintuitive. I'm actually going to preserve this mystique this way. 57 seconds. Oh, I hope my timings are right here. So we'll paint the vitality. I might have messed this up because of the time that it took me. But what I'm hoping to do here is just get another painting in so that I can recover my passion, and then I'm going to use 3 passion and a notoriety for the next one. And as always, we're going to send Clifton out just to see if we can hire a hire somebody who's good at stealing things. I guess we can spend money on paints this time around. And we found a patron this time, so that takes up reason. And once again, we'll send Clifton out. Got my vitality again, so we'll be able to turn this into a lesson learned right away, but I am going to head straight back. And we've got a Season of Visions coming up, so I do want to be a little mindful of the passion, but you know, it's a balance of risks at this point. I need to do something to kind of generate my mystique without getting the attention of the Suppression Bureau. Okay, cool. This did turn out for me. And we got a Course of the Heart. Whenever the principle of heart is implicated, I may gain a vitality. So this is looking up for us as far as our improvements are concerned. Glimmering doesn't do too much for us right now. We're not trying to upgrade any lore. But I've got... So I think this is the mystique that we used as an input. Okay, well, we didn't generate any fascination. We're up the funds, so I feel pretty good about that. Got 7 seconds on the passion, which is good. So this is some more time for the notoriety to tick down. We've got more time for the mystique to stay on the board. So we're just going to wait for the last second on the notoriety. And then we're going to do a big painting with lots of passion in it. So again, this extends it a little bit longer than it necessarily has to. But I sort of feel okay doing this because it is going to generate... We have a replacement mystique here, and we should be generating some more mystique off of the remaining... off of the painting. And then that should get us in the clear, and then we stop doing things that'll generate mystique for a little while. Okay, we've now got Sulachana Amavasya. Oh, sorry, Amavasaya, I think. The laconic, energetic, bright-eyed, unblinking owner of the Ecdysis Club, which we've got here, and we almost certainly will not be found in. Okay, once again, we will talk about the secret histories to try and generate some mystique and also potential people that we can recruit. But once the notoriety goes away, we can start turning the talk verb towards proper recruitment efforts. This one, I think we can skip. Well, you know what? We do have some extra cash, so... And the Season of Ardor's coming up, so this doesn't really affect me too much. What would be nice with the Season of Ardors is if I thought there was a risk of generating a Dread, but in this case, Dread is one of the smallest... This is the funny thing about the Church of the Bright Edge. Less so for the DLC. I think the DLC generally... it's kind of assumed that you already know how the game works, but the Church of the Bright Edge is not necessarily the worst one to start off with for two reasons. One, I think a lot of people are, in the context of a video game, are very inclined towards the whole... Like, this thing is a problem, I'm going to go murder this thing for as a solution. It's definitely not the only solution in a lot of games. In fact, you may have noticed in some of the previous playthroughs, I've done maybe not exactly a pacifist run, but definitely the number of sort of villainous acts that you can perform inside of this game weren't really a feature to the decisions that I made in this one. But I think it's fair to say, right, if you've got someone like Mr. Alden, you're like, well, you know, it is a video game. You're allowed to say awful things like, I will, you know, I'm going to send someone to assassinate my boss, and where that would be an incredibly alarming statement in the real world in the context of a video game where you're playing essentially the antagonist of a Lovecraft story. It's the sort of thing you sign up for. So, in that sense, the Church of the Bright Edge will give you, at the highest level, Edge 10 followers. So the highest possible, like the most likely success of any individual follower. So that's quite handy. But on top of that, the ability to use... So if you find Dread to be particularly difficult... then the ability to use Dread in a recruitment ceremony or an initiation is also a very helpful side effect. Now, that's probably one that's maybe a little bit less obvious, because I think for most people they just use lore when they want to induct someone into whatever cult they found inside of this game. But it's not. It's certainly not the only option, and I think being able to realize that you can use some of the more mundane forces in the form of despair or dread or fascination, and again, just simply the idea of sort of seeing this as sort of a leaking of the principles that we're talking about, things like Lantern and Edge and whatnot, seeing those as sort of a way that the mundane world feels the influence of certain hours. I kind of like that idea of being able to sort of subvert some of the things that you might see as antagonistic in your own life, and instead building something useful out of it. In any case, we will not get so philosophical about it, because we have very immediate practical concerns, which is I need to get a little bit healthier. So in this case, we're going to do one last trip to the study, more long walks, and that will give us the 4th vitality that we need to combine them into 2 lessons learned, and then we will... Actually, I believe we already have that with the painting, but we'll turn those into lessons learned and use them to get our first skill, first physical skill. Right, my recent work is considered notable. I've exhibited the latest paintings publicly. Surely someone will buy something. So we earned 3 mystique off of that. So no guarantees. There's always the chance that the notoriety is going to get picked up, but I'm feeling pretty good about our current state. More importantly, you'll notice that the timing... So I'm not very good at doing the timing, but it actually turned out to work very well. So This is the last time I'm going to try and generate mystique through a painting. What will happen is this. We've got 2.9 seconds. That's going to cross the notoriety past that very important 60-second threshold. We've got 9 cards on the... sorry, 10 cards. So it's a 10% chance of... or 0.10, however you want to report them, of notoriety getting picked up. So again, there are no guarantees in Cultist Simulator, but this is very likely that we're... it's going to pick up something other than that notoriety. If so, the notoriety will expire on its own, and at that point, we just wait for the mystique to run through, like we were doing before. I'm less inclined towards the appointment at the Quiet Parish now, simply because, this is how I wound up in trouble in the first place. There's nothing saying I can't do a few more paintings. We'll see. In any case, let's put that passion back. Still no staleness, which is nice, but we did earn some pretty decent money. So we'll also be a bit of a fixture at Moorlands again, I think. But let's start by seeing what happens. We don't want to use our mystique until... Nice. Okay. So I was actually thinking, do I want to paint with all of my mystique? I'm like, well, I kind of can. Let's go for it. Actually, you know what? Let's just leave the... I'm going to leave the work verb alone. I know there's going to be some people... So, here's... this is kind of where I just get back into my usual habits of, like, playing as... maybe not necessarily as a... as someone trying to optimize... Oh, what am I doing? Sorry, I wanted to go to the wood. This is where I'm operating as someone who's not... who's telling a little bit of a story as opposed to... doing what's necessarily the best approach for a playthrough. But I'll say if you kind of want to get on with things, one of the options that I have right now, and I know this is very common in a lot of games. In fact, this is one thing where I'm not 100% sure how I feel about this for the game. It is very common to take the heart verb and use that in the work slot for a little while, because you gain vitality by working sort of that physical job. And so you take the vitality that you generate as a side effect, you become sort of this hulking monster, and then you go and you find work at Glover and Glover. And that's never quite sat right with me, right? So in the case of this, like, Davidson's got a vocation, right? I'm attached enough to this, and, the institution that I work for, again, it doesn't specify Church of England or anything like that. It's whatever entity exists in the secret histories, which likely changes depending on, which history you're in. But basically, it seems a little weird to say, oh, you know what, I'm just going to go moonlight as a construction worker until, I'm ripped, and then I'm going to go back to the pulpit. That, doesn't quite sit right with me. So this is a shortcut. It's one that I know of, but it's one that I've never quite been able to settle in my head. Sometimes I do it. Sometimes I do it as a matter of expediency. But in this case here, it doesn't quite seem to fit. So I'm just pursuing vitality through more conventional means. So we'll let the work slot sit idle unless I have... I'm just trying to think of anything else that I can do. If I had a commission, I'd be able to... well, I do have a commission, but it's not sufficient for the... If I were to try it here. It's not high enough, so... And Zulachana will not give me another commission. So, gotta wait on that one. I suppose I could explore Street Strange by moonlight, though. That's going to take 30 seconds. I know I'm safe from the fascination. And we're going to combine up the vitality when I get a chance. Okay, Season of Ambition, so that'll be an excuse to paint. So I want to make sure that I'm combining the oldest vitality just so that I get the longest time possible to combine things. And I think I said I was going to go back through the wood. My apologies for not doing that earlier. So now I pass between the scarbark trees. The moon passes behind branches, though her fingers remain in my hair. I'm stumbling over roots now. It is tempting to drop to all fours to avoid the low branches. Pale wings move deep in the night. In fact, maybe instead of Street Strange by Moonlight, because I can't really see a major advantage to me doing that. Sorry, I should have read the text. Let's go back to Moorlands. We've got some cash. It takes time to sort the gold from the dross, the wheat from the chaff, the blood from the water. If I buy enough books, I'll find something interesting. And we found Eldridge. Speaking of finding something interesting, an elegant man of inelegant habits. Right. Let's bring that passion back up. So, the easiest thing for me right now, if we're trying to not generate mystique, at least long enough for the Suppression Bureau to stop taking an interest, right now it seems easiest for me to just start recruiting everybody. This does, however, mean that I'm going to need to rearrange the board a little bit. So, we'll keep this for influences, I think. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take my possessions, I'm going to move them off to the side here. Doesn't have to be ordered because we're going to restore them later. So I think this is all fine here. We'll leave us... I'm going to leave these over here. But yeah, the regular followers here will keep in place. I think this might be 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. So hanger on here. I genuinely don't recall if this is heart or grail. I'm pretty sure it's heart. The colors don't quite. I don't perfectly recall the colors. So let's go for now. I think I'll just stick the books beneath. I'm going to have to sort of slowly shift this stuff down as time goes by. But this will work as a temporary solution. So I guess the last question would be, where do I want to put some of the temporary things? So let's put the vitality and such here. And the moods, well, I guess I'll stick them. Again, I'm going to have to think about how I handle the items that we get, but that's something for me to worry about on another occasion. All right, I'm reasonably satisfied with this board for now. Okay. Lord Percival Stab prepared the path, but I am the path. I could alter the forms that have been re-established. Oh, once and only once. You may set another kind of lore as the heart of your cult. Begin the process only if you have the lore. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize. Ah, I get it. So if I hit start, I'm able to do the change. Okay, actually that's... I think what I'll do here, this is actually kind of interesting, so you can induct people under one side. I always thought you were stuck with the, original. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, so I'll maybe make a decision later in terms of which group I'd like to be. For now, we'll keep it as is, and let's start bringing more people in as believers. Maybe we'll start with Clovette because we can see why it would be helpful to remove reputation. So, Clovette is happy in a way that brooks no counter-argument to happiness. So we will take the knife secret. This one is ready. And again, I'm never happy just leaving the work slot unattended like this. But we've just had so much trouble with the... Actually, there is one thing I can do now. So because we have some mystique, which is a little aged, I don't think I can paint Madame Bichet, but Portrait of Pope Clifton. Better still, another vitality, because that way we might generate the heart. Oh, that's right. We're going to get a restlessness out of this. Well, that's fine. All right, collection of poetry. We will sell that. We'll sell that later. We don't need it because we're already at the top level. Now, Peculiar Rumor, under normal circumstances, I'd be quite happy to get, because this allows you to get a new acquaintance in exchange for a notoriety. But because it will expire within 60 seconds, it's not as helpful for me here. So we'll go to the Temple of the Wheel. A furtive truth, a detail smuggled in from an adjacent narrative. Don't speak this where you may be overheard. In my sleep, I came to the high jagged rock, which is still called the Temple of the Wheel, though the hour called the Wheel is long extinct. Another hand had scratched a secret in the black lantern on its flank. I burned that secret into my memory to preserve it for waking, before the velvet came out of the velvet wood depths and erased it. The velvet is jealous of her secrets. Alright. Lots of things happened here. So before they speak the words, the novice must sharpen a knife so it can separate a drifting thread, and it be not sharp enough, it will be the worse for them. Clavette's determined happiness now borders on the fanatical. No, apparently the wood. Wood decided it wanted to join. I've grown stronger. I've gained health, but it'll be more difficult to gain health next time. Wait, really? I feel like I'm one step ahead on all of this. That's fine. I mean, it's good news that we got this. So, stronger physique. I've benefited from exercise. Use this with 2 lessons learnt to gain more health. So, this now means... So, the reason... one of the biggest advantages that I personally see is the transition from 1 to 2 health. Because it means that even if you're not very careful at checking what's coming up next, you have... So, you get sick... And then you have another health that you can use in the study verb to generate a vitality to cure yourself and save the funds. Obviously, we're not hurting for funds, but to me, this is a nice little... To me, this is a nice thing to have. It may be less of a big deal for others, but to me, the move from 1 to 2 health is quite a bit more significant than going, say, from like 3 to 4. Because at that point, you're kind of used to having lots of health. Although for this one, for those of you who don't know where this is going, we're going to need some health. I'm abrim with vitality. If I devote some time to exercise, I'll benefit. Well, certainly we need the benefit, and we also need to go back to the door, or through the woods. So let's go and recruit again. We will bring in... So Clovette was the only one that I really needed. We've already got a moth follower, so at this point let's bring in Laidlaw, and we don't need trappings. We'll just get by without, so this one is ready. And then we want to go back to Moorlands. We can pay for the paints. As yet, I have only the needs and desires of any other mortal, but what stirs in me? So the reason why I'm using the Mystique here, I was hesitating to do it before because I wanted to just have some time where it decays. But of course, again, the investigation's going to keep going as long as there is Mystique on the table to be consumed. So in this case here, I'm just taking the oldest Mystique and turning it into... Oh, looks like I generated a new one. Well, so much for that theory. I really thought if you did a reputation-only painting, you didn't generate Mystique. Fair enough. We basically got the funds back, so that's a net loss for us. Now, this one I'm going to do the same thing again purely because we do actually want to get rid of the restlessness, but I think I'm going to go back to the old habit of not doing anything with the work slot. It just seems like we wind up in too many situations where we wind up generating Mystique or otherwise having undesirable side effects. So Laidlaw is now has begun to understand the limitations of ingenuity and the power of sacrifice. So again, we've got the lore that we need, so we'll just keep bringing in. Everybody's favorite, Saliba, is the next to be joined. So Saliba is a man of prodigious appetite. He is long past the point where their satisfaction has given him any pleasure, but he has learnt so very much. So this vitality is kind of on its own right now, but we... Yes, I have enough time to be able to get another vitality. Okay, another collection of poetry. Definitely not what I'm looking for from Moorlands, but I'll get used to it. Still don't have staleness, so I'm okay paying for the paints, but it may turn out to be a wash again. Alright, same story about the peculiar rumor. Once the Suppression Bureau stops investigating me, I'll take advantages of these. Let's see that I don't recall if there's a regularity to the wood, so let's see if we get another secret histories. Nope, okay. But this is actually arguably even better for us, because this is going to decay into vitality. The toes tap, all is brisk, and all is well. In the wood beyond the walls of the mansis, a jagged rock rears like the petrified remnants of a dancing giant. I trailed my hand along its flank, over the eye signs and lichen and the crude graffiti of the lesser wood powers, and I feel the thrumming of the wheel, which has passed. It has passed, but something continues. Alright, and we do have the lesson learned. So we're not quite ready for this vitality yet. What I am going to do is I'm going to lock in my my health for another vitality. We don't have that much time left on it. So spend the 60, it's got 40 seconds left. We combine these two vitality into a lesson learned, and we'll have our third health by the end of the next episode. We do also have a season of sickness coming up, so I think what we'll do is we'll wait for the trembling airs. That'll turn into vitality in 60 seconds, and so it'll just be hanging around waiting for the dream slot to become available for the sickness. In that case, we're in good shape. We don't have that much to fear as far as the illness is concerned. So even though we had a rather embarrassing mishap at the end, in the middle of the previous session, we're at the end of this week's episodes, and while we do have some mystique that's kind of hanging around, I think the longest lived, actually it's the new one that we generated. So 270 seconds in theory. I'd say probably 200's a little bit more likely, because even if these things get picked up by the investigation, I don't know, I kind of feel like it's a little more likely that one of these newer ones is going to get hoovered up rather than the older ones. But I don't know, the longest time we do need to wait is 270 seconds, so I should maybe prepare for that. But yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, if you would like to leave a comment or a like, it does help me get noticed. If you subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications, you will be informed when an episode's coming up. Again, I have both my live stuff that I upload. Those tend to be 3 or 4 hour-ish videos. These will always be going up around 6:30 Eastern Time. But as always, it is a little bit of a challenge for me to try and get all of this recorded. I was actually feeling quite sick when recording the last 2, and I am realizing the benefit of having, a couple of days off to try and recover, which makes it a little harder with the new format. So if you see a gap, I apologize. It probably means I ran out of time or had some other interruption. But I will say the comments, just everybody's interaction with all of this has definitely given me a reason to really try and push for those continued episodes. And I know I ask for it, but I also want to communicate how much I appreciate it, because it is very cool to see that people are still interested in Cultist Simulator and like to see me go through it. So have a good weekend, and we will see you Monday for another episode of Harold Davidson. Until then.